This is the Contenders Corner Podcast, where we learn from others to find the best in you and ourselves, challenging our own beliefs, sharing each other's vulnerability to overcome our fear, ask the questions that no one else does, and talk and say the things no one else will, to transform ourselves, to transform the world on wrestling media. Hi, and welcome to the Contenders Corner Podcast, where we talk everything that is wrestling. I am your host, Jason, and join me and other guests as I dissect this episode of WWE, Episode 2, Failed Keith Lee. We are an unbiased show here, and we'll go into this episode with an open mind, whether it's good or whether it's bad. We aren't afraid to hit home some honest, thunderous sports here. If you're new to this, then please like, share, and subscribe, and comment in the comment section below, and stay with us, as we have a lot to discuss here. YouTube, are you ready? This is Episode 2, WWE Failed Keith Lee. We'll start off with Scott. The rundown of Keith Lee first. Let's do a rundown of Keith Lee's backstory, Ring of Honor to NXT.
Well, I've always known him to be a massive star on the indies. I've seen clips of him on YouTube before he signed NXT, and I always thought he looked pretty impressive. I quite liked what I see. I think he was good in his great in another indie company, Pro Wrestling Guerrilla. Him, Dijakovic, Hangman Page, all the big guys works in them companies, and they had put on great matches. So even though we saw Keith as a big guy, I knew that he was incredibly talented, and he still is. He's an unbelievable wrestler. Unbelievable. Before
he went into the NXT picture, as he went over to WWE, before he even went into NXT picture, you saw him hanging around as the security side.
Well, many people do.
Yeah.
I mean, they try to say, "Oh yeah, they're security guys," but we're not fighting it.
Yeah,
we're not fighting it.
Matt, you've seen Keith Lee hanging around in England a couple of times over on PCW. Is that correct?
Yeah, in 2016, he was part of the PCW's tournament of champions in different companies, like the German company WXW. They also had the Dean Ambrose's old company there, which was ZZW. Obviously, PCW, there's about 3 or 4 different companies, and well, they had a wild card, and Keith Lee was one of the wild cards from a different company. It wasn't Ring of Honor, but I think it was the company that Scott said.
Yeah.
And Pro Wrestling Guerrilla.
Yeah, and since that tournament, when I first saw him, I was like, this guy's got it. He's the moveset. I was like, how can this guy of this size fly through the air the way he does? I'm like, what? Wow. It's like unbelievable. And then to see that moveset, I thought, yeah, this guy's going to go far. But then for WWE to take half of his moveset away,
yeah,
I was shocked. I was like, no, you just let him do his own thing, because you know it's just disappointing that he just wouldn't let him just do all of his movesets, get the fans behind him. Well, no, Vince being Vince, you can't do this, you can't do that.
Yeah, Keith says, "I am limitless. Vince McMahon, hold my beer."
Yep. His moveset was limitless.
It was, yeah, it was absolute. It was one of the guys that I loved hanging around in WWE. But as he was in that crowd that got released in the... I understand they want to throw Roman Reigns in front of everybody, but there's too many guys, too many of the guys or women that I've loved, you know what I mean, and have gone away from wrestling. Like, there's too many of them, you know what I mean? And for them to push one guy, and it's just like, I understand what they're trying to do. You know, they want to create a main event picture. You know, the next thing after Brock Lesnar and stuff like that. But it's like, you're just pushing one guy. You're not pushing everybody else. You see what I'm getting at. So it's like you're seeing guys being successful in NXT, having all these championship reigns, having brilliant careers there, and then as soon as they get called up from WWE, they're just getting tarnished, completely tarnished.
Yeah, sad, really.
Do you know anything about his PWG career, Pro Wrestling Guerrilla career?
I won titles, had great matches. I mean, PWG, I think their most famous tournament is Battle of Los Angeles, which was won recently by the AEW star Daniel Garcia, who also has a great future in this sport. Some of the wrestlers that have competed in the past, you've had Keith Lee and Dijakovic. I think that's where their feud or their matches really started. You had guys like Ray Phoenix there, Walter, Timothy Thatcher, Hangman Page. I mean, there's been incredible guys that's wrestled there. It's been probably one of the key indie companies. The sort of a tier lower below Ring of Honor. But some of the guys that's been there, incredible. But that's where they've really became big in PWG. That's where they probably first recognised the real indie fans.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's where I first really heard of him, seeing him on YouTube, and I thought he was incredible.
Talking about his NXT days, Matt, can you touch up on that?
Ever since his first match in NXT, really, he's WWE signed a really fantastic indie superstar. I like the way they slowly built him up, and then suddenly they had that big rivalry with Adam Cole, and he had the two championship bouts on. He won the main one, and then suddenly it was you've got to drop one of your championships, even though you've just won it, which I found was kind of strange. I thought, he's got two belts, go with it, see what happens. But behind the scenes, and probably got report to Vince. That's asked for Vince's permission, and Vince probably goes, "Oh no, he's not my flavour of the month anymore. Drop his title." And then it just went downhill from there, really. It's like Scott said,
Yeah.
You go up to the main roster and that's it then. You're dead and buried. I've got no plans for you.
Not for everybody. Not for everybody.
Not for everybody, yeah.
Most of them.
Most
If they haven't
of them.
got plans for you, then, that's it.
What are your favourite matches over in NXT, Scott? We'll go with Scott first.
Well, there's some of your favourite moments, I'll probably say. Obviously, seeing his athleticism his rivalry with Dijakovic, just doing it in the NXT, just showcasing the two of them as the incredible wrestlers they are, really was great to see.
Yeah.
And him throwing Adam Cole into the crowd, that was also brilliant. Where he just sort of shoulder charged you into the crowd. Beating Adam Cole, also another big moment for him. But I think him and Dijakovic doing it under the WWE banner was also good to see, because them guys they've been going at it for years, and they're probably doing it into their 50s, because them two, they've wrestled each other so many times. They always seem to put on a classic. It just always happens.
What would you say where would you say his best matches came from?
Probably the Indies.
The
Probably,
Indies.
even though under WWE, he's exposed to more people, because more people watch WWE than they would do the Indies. So more people will be watching him and taking more attention of Keith Lee. But he had his real great matches, the real foundation of his great matches came in the Indies before he signed for the WWE.
Well, I'm looking at the Wrestling Observer, and I'm seeing like as you're backing it up, yeah. I'm seeing some 5-star matches here where he faced Donovan Dijak, and that was a 5-star match. He had a match with Ray Phoenix, and that was a 3.25 match. He had a match with Walter, and that was a 3.5. He had a match with, again, Jeff Cobb and Matt Riddle, and he was defeated by them. Donovan Dijak and Keith Lee were defeated by Jeff Cobb and Matt Riddle, and that was a 4.5.
It's PWG, isn't it?
Yeah, PWG, yeah. Sammy Callahan, yeah. Brian Cage.
Look at the names you've just reeled off. Proper talent,
yeah. There was even a match with Ricochet, Jeff Cobb and Keith Lee. That was a 4.5. Did you watch any of these matches?
I've seen clips.
Mm.
I've not actually seen I think there is DVDs of them somewhere.
Yeah.
If there is, I'll probably have to track them down. But I've seen clips of them, and he's incredible. They all are.
Yeah.
They're all incredible, because there's in WWE, certain matches are protected, where they're not. Whereas in the Indies, they wouldn't think twice about hitting the power bomb a lot harder, kicking you in the head more harder. Whereas in NXT, it's sort of protected a bit, so like do it, but gentle. But whereas on the Indies, they could be their true selves. They just go hell for leather, and with that, you get the entertainment.
I think it's mainly post 2018, 2019, where Keith Lee was a driving force for success, where he was currently at NXT. Would you agree with that, Matt?
What was that, sorry?
Post 2018, 2019, would you say he was a big success before he got called up to the main roster?
Oh, definitely. He had everything that he could ever wish for. He was, he was the main champion. He was the North American champion at the same time. He was like their number one guy at the time.
Yeah.
And then, for that to take it all the way from him and send to the main roster, everyone's like, main roster, maybe they've got something for him here. There's got to be a reason. But then, all of a sudden, for no plans, and then down the line to change his name to Bearcat is one of the most ridiculous things they could ever do. That Bearcat Lee, I was like, what a way to just ruin the guy.
We'll touch over that in a minute. It's good that you brought that up, though. It's good that you brought that up, because this is where we're going to end up talking about how WWE failed Keith Lee. But starting off, War Games, where it went right for Keith Lee, would you say?
Where did it go right?
Yeah.
Well, there's so many different matchups, like Scott says,
Yeah.
He had.
Because he had storylines with Adam Cole, Tommaso Ciampa. You had the War Games match with Adam Cole, Bobby Fish, Kyle O'Reilly, Roderick Strong. Some of these dream matches, all coming from NXT, and then you even had the Survivor Series 5 versus 5 versus 5, Raw versus SmackDown versus NXT, and then bang! Oh my fucking hell! That was absolutely fire, absolutely fire. And then you would have thought, are they gonna do it the next year? Are they gonna do it 2020? And no, they don't do it. It's like the poor.
If you want to say like the best, I wouldn't say best, but I could say the funniest moments of his career on the main roster. Well, I know he was still in NXT at the time. Was his Royal Rumble entry?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah, Brock Lesnar was in the ring.
Yeah, I thought that was absolutely hilarious. Just how he come down and Brock was come on then, big boy.
Ooh, big man. Brock is pure gold. He is so underrated when it comes to charisma, Brock. But that's for another day.
That's for another day, yeah. Defo.
But I think they missed the golden opportunity there.
Definitely. You would have thought, okay, the height of Brock Lesnar's career as well with Paul Heyman, he's got the title on his shoulder, and they go down the same route of pushing him with Roman Reigns or Drew McIntyre. But again, I kind of like the Drew McIntyre, handing it over to Drew McIntyre. I enjoyed that bit more. But I did predict it would have been Roman Reigns.
Wow. There's with Brock and Roman, looks like that's being recycled. But there is the possibility of Goldberg putting a spanner in the plans, but who knows?
Well, a lot of the universe are saying it's going to be Goldberg too. Oh my word! We'll talk about that another day. Isn't it the common denominator here? Don't you get like let's go out of this video for a second, but isn't there a common denominator here? Like there's always like a heel somewhere. Goldberg comes in the picture and then bang, he's a champion again for 5 minutes. It happened with The Fiend.
Well, you definitely need to have a heel around, because wrestling's all about a good guy versus a bad guy, a face versus a heel. So if Goldberg's coming in and being a face, you need that heel to sort of make the story worthwhile.
Yeah.
Because if you got a face versus face, yeah, you put on a hell of a match, but there's more story behind face versus a heel.
I know what you mean, yeah.
If it was up to me, every match would be a face versus a heel, but sometimes you do need the other ones.
Mm.
Oh, yeah, because just have like a friendly rivalry, as friends.
So let's jump back in where it went right. NXT Takeover War Games 2019, November 23rd. What are your thoughts on that, Matt?
That was 2019. That was I'm just trying to.
I'm sure you went and watched that.
Yeah,
That's
that's
the
what I'm thinking.
Kevin Owens was in.
Yeah.
Yeah, when Ciampa hit that big move, Adam Cole from the top of the cage
Yeah.
for a tape.
Champions team. Yeah. I remember.
Dominic Dijakovic and Keith Lee and Kevin Owens and
Showed Britt Baker in the audience by accident.
Yeah, now I remember. Yeah, I thought that was a great match, but obviously at the time, I thought it was the wrong decision.
Can you touch on that? Why do you think it was the wrong decision at the time?
Because I think the Undisputed Era at the time were going somewhere. And part of the storyline. Yeah, sorry?
Yeah, they went to AEW.
Wow. Now it's California.
Carry on, Matt.
Probably be the one that take Hangman Page. But for another thing, like you say, space failed in WWE. Yes, they get from the WWE, and I know it's only just been these, but I can see him in the TNT champion and then debut.
Yeah.
I can see down the line. I think Winnie will be the one to the hole. Becoming TNT. That is my prediction.
What's your prediction again? Sorry.
My prediction would be at the EW pay-per-view, he will win either him or Wardlow. See him defeat Adam Cole for the AEW will be competing for it.
Hold on a sec, Matt. Are you all there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Matt, you there?
I am there, yeah.
Oh, it's better now, it's better.
You're a bit jumpy, yeah.
Yeah, Matt was
he
a
was
bit...
talking, it was a little bit like he was underwater.
So what was your prediction? What was your prediction again, Matt?
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now, yeah.
Yeah. My prediction was that he will win the ladder match at the next pay-per-view. He will defeat Sammy Guevara for the TNT Championship. And then further down the line, I could see him defeating Adam Cole for the AEW Championship.
That'll be good to see. I like that. Scott, can you touch up on that?
In my opinion, I think Wardlow is going to win the TNT ladder match. Wardlow will defeat Sammy Guevara. But I don't think it'll be Adam Cole that defeats Hangman. I think MJF will be the man that dethrones Hangman Page, and then Wardlow beats MJF. That's my perfect, because Wardlow is turning face. That's bound to happen.
Yeah.
So, because MJF, didn't he mention his promos to Wardlow, saying if you win the ladder match, you get me my TNT Championship. So he's going to expect Wardlow to win the ladder match and lay down for MJF. So, in my personal opinion, I think Wardlow is going to win that ladder match at Revolution.
Interesting.
It is interesting, and it's shape. Would you say AEW is the place for Keith Lee to thrive? We'll go with Scott on this one.
Right, absolutely. I mean, he's already had the singlet taken off him. He's allowed to be himself more with a bare chest. As you saw when he revealed himself, basically saying, "Look, bare-chested." That's a little dig at Vince. But I think he will put on some great matches. I mean, I'm already salivating at the thought of him facing Lance Archer. That's the hell of a match.
Oh, yeah.
That is a dream match for me, Keith Lee versus Lance Archer. And
man.
they're both under the same roof. And, well, let's see what happens. But I'm excited for his future in AEW. I mean, he put on... We all expect him to beat Cassidy on last week. So I'm excited to see where it goes.
Well,
really excited.
I am excited at the moment, but with some with recent news surfacing about Cody and Brady, it's going to be a bit. Quick thoughts on that, guys. Just a quick summary. What are your thoughts on that, both of you?
Do you want to start, Matt?
Just a quick summary, yeah. Go on.
There must be something that's gone on that Cody doesn't like backstage. It's the only thing I can think of.
So something has gone on backstage AEW.
What? Don't know.
Go on, Scott.
There is the possibility that that could be happening, but there's also a possibility to consider that it could be a work. I mean, there is. I've seen some talk come on some AEW based or some wrestling chats that I've been on social media, and there is a possibility it could be a work. I mean, it's only been recently, in the last few years, Cody has been very public about how he left WWE. He wasn't really given the time of day from people, and that's why he helped form All Elite Wrestling. I mean, the company is not even properly 3 years old. And to leave the company that he's invested so much of his time, so much of his efforts, and maybe even his money out of his own pocket to help produce, to help build this roster, to help build this company from the ground up, for him to even potentially be leaving this early is ludicrous. With all the talk about AEW take over WWE, they won the Wednesday Night War against NXT very convincingly. Is this WWE landing a counter punch back? Is this a counter punch back from WWE?
But also, okay, like another YouTuber has speculated this in the past. You know, in the days when NXT and AEW were at war. But this is only early days yet. But are WWE, AEW secretly working together? We'll go over with Matt and then we'll go on to Scott. Matt?
Oh, sorry, I thought you said in a minute. Are they secretly working together?
Yeah. Your opinion, then we'll go on to Scott and then we'll...
Well, I don't know. It's tricky, but then again, going off the news that's come out earlier on, now it's a big possibility.
What news? What news did you see?
Now that one of the founding members of AEW have left, well, actually two of them, because obviously him and his wife,
Cody and Brandi, yeah.
So you've got like the leading lady of the women's division, Brandi Rhodes, that she's leaving women. So there's two. Well, it's like for Cody, he was like the vice president of the company. He's jumping ship. So if he does go back to WWE, it's like, will he go to Vince to reveal his secrets about AEW, or will he go to WWE and say, listen, can you talk to Tony Khan and we'll work something out? As a working business partnership, and you can have special pay-per-views like on a Saturday night or something. Something like when you do Saudi Arabia pay-per-views. It could be like WWE, AEW pay-per-view. You just never know.
Scott, what are your thoughts on that?
In my preference, I'd rather them not working together, because they are two different companies providing completely different things. Whereas WWE are sort of more focused on the sports entertainment side of things and entertaining the audience with their sometimes terrible comedy segments. And then you've got the AEW is more focused on pro wrestling. So the fact that two of them working together, for me, I hope it's not true, because they are different. They're supposed to be their own identity, and a lot of the stuff they've done on screen has been clear digs at WWE. Take, for example, Chris Jericho's stupid idea from Bad Creative. We all knew he was talking about there. CM Punk main event in night 4 of a buy one get one free wrestling show. We all know what he was talking about there. So the fact that if CM Punk knew that AEW was working in coach WWE, do you seriously think CM Punk would be on the AEW roster?
No.
So CM Punk despises Vince McMahon's way of working. He hated it for pretty much during his entire run in WWE. If there was even the possibility that AEW and WWE are in a relationship with each other, CM Punk would be out of there faster than you can say fish and chips on a Friday. Seriously, he'd be out of there. He would be gone. So I can't see it personally. I really can't. But with the news of Cody potentially signing there, I think it's the most craziest wrestling story I've seen in
years,
quite a few. I mean, I thought Kevin Owens re-signed WWE and we all thought he was off. I thought that was crazy.
Yeah.
This is madder than that, considering what Cody's done for AEW.
Yeah,
and the digs he's done at WWE since he's left.
He even
leaving, go back, is just mad.
He promoted the game. He set up. It was set up as a president for AEW. Vice president for AEW. Brady had her role along with AEW, and I tell you what, she has been a woman, a driving inspiration for the women's division in AEW, and they've both been fired. They've had some fantastic.
Yeah, and I want to see more of this thing with her and Dan Lambert.
Yeah,
I'm loving what's going on between them two. The promos, what they've said to each other, it's brilliant. I want to see more of that.
Hopefully, it's just a work, like you said earlier on. I'm hoping it's just. It
just seems way too crazy. It's too out there. It's too left field. The only way they'll be leaving is through creative differences, like you said, behind the curtain. The only thing.
But moving that, because we're going to touch on this again in a future episode, probably next week. But where did it go wrong for Keith Lee, Matt?
I would say the name change.
The name change. Could you Go into depth. Could you go into depth on that?
Just the bad creative, and they run out of plans for him, really. I just don't know why you would change a well-known name. You know, you could, get. He didn't need nothing needed changing in the main roster.
Okay, so hold on, Matt. Would you say the name change destroyed his career? He couldn't come back. There was no way for him to come back. Would you say that was the main reason why it all spiraled downhill for Keith Lee?
I would say the change in music as well.
Yeah, because the name change just seemed like an embarrassment to the name of Keith Lee. Where he came from, he had some fantastic matches. The fans were behind him. He had a lot of focus, and then soon as that name gets changed, Bearcat Lee, that was it.
But to change his theme music about 2 or 3 times on the main roster.
Yeah.
That's when the fans, well, they wouldn't turn on Keith Lee, but they were kind of telling Vince like a big F you. It's like, why ruin a golden theme?
Yeah.
His moveset. Yeah. As soon as they did that, to change his theme the first time, and fans just spit in the face of everything, which affected Keith Lee. And then we still don't know what the mystery illness was that he had, which forced him off TV for months. We still don't know anything about that.
Scott, can you?
Now he's in AEW. We might get a little bit of a reveal.
Yeah, hopefully. Scott, can you touch up on that? Was the theme and his name the reason why it all spiraled downhill for Keith Lee?
The theme tune, was one thing. But, his first night on the main roster, he was covered up. He was like he had to cover up the way he looked in a sort of way, and that could have affected him. But, his first pay-per-view, with a week beyond the main roster, his pay-per-view debut, he's beaten Randy Orton. Now, this ain't just any old wrestler. This is Randy Orton, one of the darlings of the company. So you thought, okay, this is big. But then I think with him being told to cover up, and I've seen reports on social media that Keith was a bit of a bad egg backstage. How true that is, I couldn't possibly say, because I wasn't in that environment. I wouldn't know, and that's probably affected people. But I think the name change, it wasn't great, but when I've read the heritage behind the name, obviously Charles Bearcat Wright was a very popular African-American wrestler during the 1950s, and especially with times where Martin Luther King was making a name for himself, Bearcat Wright was doing great on the wrestling circuit as an African-American. So I can see there was good behind it, but it didn't really go anywhere. So I think ever since he came up to the main roster, they changed his look, they changed his theme tune. It's like they couldn't settle on anything. But I wouldn't say his results were terribly bad. He beat Orton, like I said, in his pay-per-view debut. He was part of a Raw team that completely swept Team SmackDown 5-0 at Survivor Series. He had a match for the WWE Championship against Drew McIntyre live in the main event of Monday Night Raw. So there was good things, but I think Vince probably made his own mind up about Keith, that Keith wasn't a Vince McMahon guy, whereas the likes of Roman Reigns is a Vince McMahon guy. I think Keith probably likes the direction that Vince wanted to take him. I mean, they wanted Adam Cole to be his manager. That's rumours I've heard. They wanted Adam Cole to come up to the main roster and manage Keith Lee. So not only are you ruining one great wrestler, you're ruining another one at the same time. So I think Keith didn't like the direction that Vince wanted to go in, and Vince didn't take too kindly to Keith challenging Vince. That's what I think happened.
That Vince was, that Keith Lee was just not a Vince guy.
Well, yeah, I think Vince doesn't like being criticised. I mean, let's take Baron Corbin, just a slight change of subject here. Baron Corbin won the Money in the Bank ladder match in 2017. He spoke out about Vince McMahon doing something wrong. The week after that, Baron Corbin failed in his cash-in on Jinder Mahal, lost his briefcase, then went on to lose to John Cena at SummerSlam. Corbin has to do a lot of grovelling for him to become king of the ring. But Corbin spoke out, same as Ziggler spoke out before. And if anyone speaks out about Vince, he will ruin you on screen. The Revival, another one. They said they are wrestlers, not superstars. Then what do you get? The Usos putting a heat down their pants and then fidgeting around in the ring like their arse is on fire. If you criticise Vince, he will ruin you. And maybe that's what happened to Keith. Maybe that's what happened. Keith didn't like the direction he was going in. He probably wanted something different. Vince didn't take too kindly to it. Nia Jax wanted time off. Vince gave her permanent time off. Bray Wyatt wanted time off. Vince cancelled his contract.
Yeah.
See, Vince is very brutal. He's very, very brutal.
It's very brutal, yeah.
Well, just to put in there on a different subject, according to WrestleVotes, Cody Rhodes is very close to having an agreement with WWE.
Yeah, I'm looking at the very same picture that you are, Matt, and a very smiling face of Akira Tozawa as well.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the exact same picture that you are.
And it says, Jace, because obviously you probably haven't seen it yet, it says, spoke to a source just now that fully anticipates WWE coming to an agreement with Cody Rhodes. Unbelievable.
Yeah, it's very unbelievable indeed. It's taking all the focus away from AEW. Like you said before in the Samoa Joe video, Scott, that there were 4 pillars in TNA that made TNA successful. The transformed, went into a different direction. TNA went down. Always seeing that kind of image re-happen. Is history repeating itself, but in the form of AEW? Are the 4 pillars being removed? WWE are taking the 4 pillars of AEW. Is that happening?
Well, AEW have been very open about who their 4 pillars are, and Cody, believe it or not, isn't one of them. Because their 4 pillars are the guys under the age of 30 that will take the company to the next level. So you've got MJF, Jungle Boy, Sammy Guevara,
Jungle Boy.
And I suppose you have to include Dr. Britt Baker in that conversation as well.
Definitely. We was going to do the rise of Dr. Britt Baker, but we will be doing that video at some point.
Yes. So Cody is one of the executives. He's played a massive part in All Elite Wrestling and its foundation, and they are a part of the company that many wrestling fans love more than WWE to this day. I mean, even I can see that AEW are knocking it out of the park more than WWE are. But with Cody going, I mean, I know this video is supposed to be about Keith Lee, but we're recording it on the same day that this massive story has come out. Yeah. So obviously it's going to take over. But it's just mad. I just can't get my head around it. I mean, it's mad.
It's mad.
I just don't understand it.
And the news about Keith Lee moving to AEW, that's mad as well. But again, let's jump back to Keith Lee. Matt.
Yeah.
Could you see big things for Keith Lee?
In AEW?
AEW, could we see him possibly do a forbidden door thing with TNA? Are we gonna see something like that in AEW with Keith Lee?
I could probably see him, building him up slowly. But I think I think he'll be one of the favourites in the ladder match. But whether he'll win it or not, that's another question.
Would AEW revision the War Games match that he had for AXT but in AEW?
No, they've got Blood and Guts.
Blood and Guts, yeah.
Yeah.
It depends on how you'd say what storyline you could probably be.
Mm.
Unless he hires some members against, let's say, I'm just trying to think of stables. You can either even have some people against the elites or America's top team, maybe. But other than that, you can't really think of anything at the moment because the inner circle's kind of splitting up, and there's not many other stables going at the moment.
Mm. So you could see Keith Lee setting up his own stable in AEW at some point?
Not at the moment. I'd probably rather see him as
singles
person on his own.
Mm.
But eventually, he may be, who knows, he could be a member of Team Taz one day, I don't know.
What about you, Scott? Your thoughts on this?
At the moment, I don't think there's a need for Keith to be in a stable right now. Obviously, Blood and Guts, great match, and obviously you want the best wrestlers to be in the best matches. Is there really a need for it at this point of time? I mean, he's in the ladder match, which is already an incredible push for him.
Mm.
I mean, this is where we saw Ethan Page debut last year in the exact same match. I mean, we've got 2 more qualifiers coming up this week on Dynamite and Rampage. Got Wardlow versus Max Caster and Dante Martin versus Powerhouse Hobbs. So we could see a really big ladder match potentially, which would be very exciting to watch. The terms for him being a stable, I just don't think there's a need for it right now. Or maybe even ever. I mean, Keith's come in to showcase his abilities, which he did very well against Isaiah Cassidy, it was an expected win. But when you put him in there with someone along the lines of John Moxley, Bryan Danielson, it's a lot more of an even playing field in terms of who will win. So I would like to see him just put on great matches, great one-on-one matches, might I add, against incredible talents like Sammy Guevara, potentially for the TNT Championship, who knows? Guys like Daniel Garcia, Eddie Kingston.
I would love to see that one.
Let's just see him as himself competing against the best week in, week out. Let's just see that for at least a good few months.
Now we know Keith Lee is finally all elite. The ultimate question is going to get asked, did WWE fail Keith Lee? We'll go with Matt.
Yes.
Can you go into depth? Your opinion. Your opinions. You can be emotional. Just keep it PG. You can be angry if you want. Just.
I wouldn't say angry. I would say disappointed. There's a lot more that they could have done with him in the main roster.
Mm.
But if they had no plans for him, I'd have kept him in NXT for a while longer. Like maybe one of the NXT, for lifers.
Mm.
Like Johnny Gargano and Ciampa. That's my opinion. If I had no plans, I'd make him. See, like now with NXT 2.0, he could be like a mentor for like people who are there now, really.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Scott, did WWE fail Keith Lee? Your opinion?
Probably have to say yes, because there was definitely a lot more that they could have done with him.
Mm.
He was incredible talent who wasn't even on, he was only on the main roster for, say, a year or a year and a half, and a lot of that was missing due to, injury, with the inverted commas either side of the word injuries. But NXT, Triple H signed these guys, these great indie guys, to NXT, and was making the whole show and showcasing their abilities so brilliantly. Guys like Adam Cole, guys like Keith Lee. But then when Triple H gets phased out, things deteriorated. Was it because they were Triple H guys that Vince basically resented them a little bit? So, because Vince didn't create them. Vince likes to create his own stars, and WWE are not doing that. The only star I have to say right now is actually created by Vince himself is Roman Reigns. And so they failed to highlight Keith in the way that wrestling fans wanted Keith highlighted.
Yeah.
Because we all knew he was this brilliant big man that can come in, dominate a lot of people, outwork a lot of people, and Vince didn't give us that. So we have to say that, yeah, WWE failed Keith Lee, and they've also failed the fans' visions of Keith Lee.
You say the fans' visions. Could you go into a bit more about that?
Well, I think us fans, when we saw the Keith Lee on the Indies, the Keith Lee on NXT, we all knew that he was very good at what he did. He was a great professional wrestler, a great attitude, a great moveset, and he excited us. Definitely. We saw Keith Lee at NXT and thought, I wonder what he could do against the likes of Roman Reigns, Bray Wyatt, Braun Strowman. Yeah, he goes up, beats Randy Orton within a week of being on the main roster. Brilliant. But then, yeah, he still had some good moments, but then they were few and far between. Whereas our expectations as wrestling fans, we wanted to see Keith absolutely bossing it on Monday Night Raw against the likes of Drew McIntyre, Seth Rollins, Kevin Owens, and we didn't get that.
No.
We wanted more from Keith Lee, and we never got it. So I suppose they have failed what we wanted for Keith Lee. Because we didn't want him to be have his music changed. We didn't want him to have his attire changed or his name. We wanted to see Keith Lee at his best. And he did show small visions of it, but I think he was restricted a little bit by booking and behind the scenes stuff. Now he's in AEW. I would like to see Keith do what Keith does best, and that's exactly what he did against Isaiah Cassidy last week on Dynamite.
I want to see. Sorry about that. I want to see Keith Lee do what he wanted, what he visioned for his character in AEW. I think he's in the right. I think he will be in the right place for that.
100%. When it comes to creative, I think that the guy in question, or the guy and the woman in question, deserves at least some input. I mean, does Matt Riddle like being a stoner? Does Drew McIntyre like carrying a sword around with him everywhere he goes, even to the shops? Let's think another one. I can't think of it, but this obviously WWE have had their creative visions. I mean, because look at Aleister Black. He wanted to be the Malachi Black we're seeing right now in AEW. He wanted that for his character.
There is another one you forgot. Elias.
Which one? Music Elias is gold. Pure gold with his guitar. When he's in the ring singing abusive songs about the audience, that is Elias at his best. He is an incredible talker, incredible wrestler. What's he done for the last year? I don't think I've even seen him.
He's on fire, isn't he?
I think that's another episode for WWE Failed, really. But again, it's like it's fire on the mic when he gets that guitar in that audience. Fuck me, sorry. He is absolutely golden. He is golden. But then you'd have thought, all right, okay, they'll do more for him.
Well, yeah, you would think that.
Yeah. But like, where has he been? Where has he been?
That is a good question. I think personally, I don't think they want to guitar people. I think you'd rather have Rick Boogs, or whatever his name is.
I wouldn't. Yeah, what was he at NXT? Eric Bugenhagen, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. With his air guitar.
Yeah, I still remember watching the clip on YouTube or XT. I think he wrestled Drew Gulak. Gulak turned up and said, "I came here to wrestle the best on your roster, and you give me Ben Stiller out of dodgeball." And then Matt Riddle turned up and beat him, so it worked out well for me.
I'll tell you what.
Yeah, give him that though. His theme was good.
It was good, yeah.
Just so they kept asking for an encore.
But yeah, guys, thanks for attending this episode. We're going to wrap this up today. This was the Contenders Corner podcast, and we aren't afraid to ever ask the hard questions here. We share your opinions, we learn from others, we ask the question no one else does. We do the research, transform ourselves so we can transform the world of wrestling media. Here we are on the Contenders Corner podcast. Our guests, Matt and Scott from the FCW crowd. Like, share and subscribe and visit their eFed over on Facebook. We will be back again next week for the next episode, and that will be dropped on Facebook at some point this week. Thank you, guys. We'll see you next week.